All right, Stephen King Saturday. Oh my goodness. All right. Dreamcatcher. This is one I haven't seen in a while. Saw when it came out. I thought I remembered some of it. I
I
remembered it was in the snow. I remember there was like friends together. And that's about it because my God, this is way different than I remember it being.
I saw this when I was a kid, but I don't know if I finished it because all I remembered was like basically the scene of the friends finding that girl in the sewer.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, first thing to discuss here, in my opinion, is the fact that this is the first story Stephen King wrote after his accident, where he sustained some head injuries and his writing changed a bit. And I think that this is good evidence for he, you know, maybe lost a step for a little bit. I feel like he's regained it, but I feel like there was that area
Yeah.
after the accident, and this is literally the first one. Now, I didn't read this book, but I was reading in the comments and reviews and whatnot that this follows the book fairly close.
Hmm.
And bro, I mean, this kind of reminds me of like Under the Dome, where King, and he's even admitted this, right? This is something that he says about himself. He's like, I never know how to end a book. Now,
Hmm.
that's not the problem with this. This isn't an ending issue. This is like
A whole thing.
uh most of the movie issue. So how the
Yeah.
book plays out, I don't know. We were probably 35, 40 minutes into this, and I was like, I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And then they like get to the cabin and they start to have their very King-esque relationship. This is something King loves to do with a group of guy friends who've been friends since they were kids in Derry, Maine,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
A lot of hints of Stand By Me and It, of
Yeah.
course. But I don't know, man. The dialogue, performances, story, narrative, all that stuff just gets so goofy.
It's like when we were watching this, I know you said it's like somebody trying to imitate King,
Yeah.
which definitely is a vibe, but I also felt like listening to the dialogue, like I could like see the pages, like I could feel myself like reading it.
Yeah.
And it sort of sounded like what you like how you try to act when you're reading in your head, you
Yeah.
know? But it's like very unnatural. And I think that King's dialogue sometimes does have a tendency to feel not as real. Like because he doesn't it's not I guess it is an exaggeration, but especially how he writes men, he like kind of over caricatures them a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they're I think you said like he writes like they're very dated, like he's from a certain time,
Yeah.
and that's definitely true. And honestly, he does it with women as well, but this movie has zero women in it, so there's no point talking about that. But
I
um
mean, there's zero leads. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, zero like leads that we are around.
Yeah.
But it's very silly. The tone gets really weird, and it sucks because we were both really into it when it started. Especially like when they see the lady sitting in the snow
Yeah.
and they
It's
crash, like
creepy.
that's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
That's cool. All the animals like running away whenever I don't remember their names, but when the other two are at the cabin
Yeah.
with the guy that's having intestinal issues, that stuff is creepy. But then like basically once Mr. Gray like takes
Oh my
over,
God.
like once that happened, well actually before that, because it's also the bathroom scene that I think we were both super frustrated with. But once
So
Mr.
silly.
Gray starts taking over, it was just like, it just felt like this is not it doesn't feel like King's best work, and B, it also just doesn't feel like it translates well to film, even if it is a very like close adaptation, like people are saying. It just, for some reason, it doesn't seem like it works, like, to see it.
Sure, and I think that's um, given a lot of credibility here in the fact that it is unadaptable more faithfully because of the people you have working on this movie, right? So if these were just some schlubs, some first timers, or some kind of like director writers for hire who will just adapt for a paycheck kind of people, I would be like, well, maybe in better hands or whatever. But no, number one, the story is just absolutely ridiculous, and this version of it, I can't imagine the book. I don't know. Would the book work if it still follows very closely to this film? I don't see how. But my point I was trying to get to is that you have Lawrence Kasdan directing and doing, a joint writing effort with William Goldman. So you have the writer of Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, freaking the Solo movie, Force Awakens, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Silverado. You've got this guy who has some of the biggest names. I mean, Empire Strikes Back obviously being one of the most beloved movies of all time. And then you've got alongside of him Goldman, who wrote Princess Bride, and then also was the screenwriter on Hearts in Atlantis, which is a Stephen King project, but also maybe the best adaptation of King's work out, just page to screen. That's a hard one, but definitely top 5. Misery, which he also wrote. And it's like, yeah, Rob Reiner's a good director, of course, but like, I just don't feel like this script was adaptable. Right? Like, I don't think this book was adaptable to script. I don't see it. And it took these two insanely talented writers who have had massive success in other areas.
And with King.
And with King.
Yeah.
And it's a Stephen King novel. So it's like you have 3 great writers working together and they still can't make this movie even remotely work. There's no way that this thing could be done well.
We've talked about, though, before with other Stephen King like works that it's like he's an author that is hard to adapt in general. Like, some of his stuff just does not work for the screen, especially when you try and do like a faithful adaptation. And with this one, like, so the bathroom scene, I know I'm jumping ahead a little, but like when we were watching it, it's like, it's so ridiculous and it's so unbelievable and silly. But when we were watching it, I'm like, if that was in a book, like, you'd be reading all the internal dialogue, like the monologue that's going through his head, and like the addiction and the stress and like all of that would have been present, but you can't really show that in a movie without the voiceover, and the voiceover would like 100% not work either. So yeah, I just think that there was probably, and a lot of the stuff too with like Mr. Gray, like, I liked the concept of having the like memory warehouse and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is cool, but
yeah.
I do think that's a similar thing where it would have you probably get more out of it when you're reading, because you get so much more of like an intimate look into a character through books that film just can never provide. Like, it can't.
We got a warning on our phone a few minutes ago that there was a dust storm coming through, and I'm looking out the window right now. And it's pretty intense out there. Wow.
Oh, okay.
Wow. So, yeah, I mean, the scene in which he's referring to is a scene with Jason Lee. And Jason Lee's sitting on a toilet. He drops. So there is this contagion that's out there. And this place has been put on quarantine, which they are alerted to by a helicopter and military personnel above. They're told there's a quarantine. They have a sick man in their house. If the government's quarantining something, it's a big, big deal.
Yeah.
Like, if they're flying in and quarantining and cordoning off an area to quarantine it, you are fucked. So the fact that not only do they take this information very easily, and they also are like yelling it to a helicopter that's in the sky, this is idiotic. The fact that they're trying to respond with their voices, do you guys not realize they're not going to understand you or hear you? Like, what? I don't understand how you don't understand. Have you ever been around a helicopter? Nobody's hearing anybody. Anyways, they're told this. Then they go into the house, which they seem to be very casual about how they don't put it together immediately that the sick guy that they just brought into their house might be one of the ones that they've cordoned off the area for.
I know. He like is so clearly like not normal sick.
No.
Like his chest was expanded when he came in, and then it like moves down to his stomach, and there's things moving.
Very abnormal symptoms, to say the least. And it doesn't even register to them that, maybe this guy's somebody we should stay away from. But they go and check on him, and he doesn't respond, so they break down the door, and he's bleeding, and there's crap everywhere, all over the walls, all over everything. He falls into the freaking shower, shit covering his ass, garbage, like just mucus and disgusting phlegm and all sorts of crap everywhere. And then, of course, his monster comes and he's fighting it. And then Jason Lee's character, he drops toothpicks all over the ground. And there's toothpicks sitting on the ground, and they're in a there's this like one little tiny patch of tile that's clean. And there's like a couple toothpicks laying on it that are, I guess, in his eyes. Of course, he doesn't say anything out loud, but we're supposed to discern for ourselves that, oh, no, it's okay. Those toothpicks are clean. Like, I get it. He's supposed to have some kind of oral fixation with some kind of addiction issue, whatever. To see him risking his life to try to get off this toilet with a monster trapped inside as he waits for his friend for seconds. I mean, he's on the toilet for a minute, maybe. You can't, in that dire of a situation, continue to keep sitting where you're at to hold this thing in so that you can reach out to try to grab toothpicks to shove into an orifice from a dirty, infected ground from a guy who obviously is spreading a contagion that the military has isolated an entire area for.
Yeah.
And you're trying to add and build tension through a scene that not one single person in an audience would ever relate to, ever. Where I'd be like, oh man, I know, I'd really need that toothpick. It'd be a hard choice. No, it wouldn't. Nobody would ever do that.
You wouldn't do it.
Your brain would be so distracted by like, oh my God, what did I just see? I got to keep this thing down.
Yes.
You're not going to be like, oh my God, I need a toothpick. Oh my God, I'm willing to risk my life to grab a toothpick that also might, and more than likely, is infected with whatever the hell just made this guy die. And I'm going to shove it into my mouth. Even though it's clean. Your hands, you're literally touching the toilet in which you just shit in. You're going to grab that toothpick with your hand because the toothpick's supposedly clean? You think your hands are clean?
They already set it up that they're like, they don't take it super seriously because, when they first put the like sick man in the bedroom, they like run out because he's like farting a bunch or whatever, and they're like laughing.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, need some air. But then also when he's on the toilet and is like telling him to go, they also make some like quip to each other. I don't know what they say, I don't remember, but they make some joke, which is just kind of like, I get it. They're having, oh my God.
Yeah, that's crazy out there. It's really
Is it
intense.
rain or is that all dust?
Dust. You can hear it hitting the roof of the carports. Anyway,
Which, I mean, I know people make jokes when they're
stressed out.
stressed and in like a scary situation, but it also just, like you're saying though, I feel like the creature is so alien and like so violent, and the situation of like the man that's dead and like shit and like blood is everywhere.
But I think that
I just don't think that they would act like that.
I think that this scene perfectly like explains this film to me. Like it's a perfect representation of my feelings on this film. Like once we hit about the 45-minute mark, from there on is like it's just because I don't want it to make it sound like, oh my god, this toilet toothpick scene just brought the film down. No, that's one scene of many that are that ludicrous.
Yeah.
Where it's just what she's mostly getting at. It's like once it gets to that point, you're like, oh, we're just in complete stupidville now.
Yeah, well, it's just very reality adjacent feeling like, and I think King sometimes has a way, that's kind of what I was meaning about how he writes, is that sometimes his dialogue, it's weird. Sometimes his dialogue works really well for me and I'm like super into it and it feels really natural and it flows and it's like poetic and all this stuff. And then other times like this, it feels very forced, very fake, very like, hey, it's okay.
I think he's scared by the storm.
I think so too. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Very like Wes Anderson style. Like how it's like very, not, people don't talk like that.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously not good.
Yeah.
Right.
It's okay, buddy.
Come on up.
Come on.
Come hang out with us.
Come hang out.
Review. You watched it.
You did.
So this is the last film that Stephen King had an adaptation for that was presented by Castle Rock Entertainment. I've never looked into this, but I can only assume, and I've always thought this, I've just never confirmed it. Castle Rock Entertainment has to be because of Stephen King, right? Like this has to be, but there's so many other Castle Rock Entertainment films.
I know.
They're not just Stephen King movies. But that had to have been born out of Stephen King.
I wondered that too.
I've never confirmed this, but it's got to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be, but it just seems like it probably is. He had like 8 films under the Castle Rock Entertainment. Oh, wow. So I don't know if that's like coincidental or it just seems like it's something it wouldn't be coincidental. Now, this movie's technically a Dollar Baby movie because Stephen King sold the rights to this story for $1, but it's made by a major studio. So that's kind of interesting because most of the Dollar Baby movies, at least to my knowledge, are all like film students that made them and not like this. Other people that we have returning to Stephen King here, in addition to the writer, is Thomas Jane, obviously from The Mist, and Morgan Freeman, obviously from Shawshank Redemption. I don't know anyone else off the top of my head at the moment, but I just thought those are always noteworthy little things. You've got Damian Lewis in here. Who is he? Jonesy? Who's Jonesy? I can't remember. We watched this a couple
Jonesy is
nights
the
ago. Like,
redhead.
Yeah, that's Damian Lewis.
The one that's possessed by Mr. Gray.
Right. Man, okay, that's what I thought. Oh man, I mean, I'm always for people bringing it.
Sure.
Right? And just like this is his performance in this is almost very Nicolas Cage-esque, where he's just like, I'm going for broke. Maybe it's not going to work, but I don't care. I'm giving it my all. And this like British guy that he does with his smile.
It was okay. There was one scene.
Yeah, a couple smiles that were creepy
because his face like it changed so fast.
Yeah.
So that, and I don't know. I'm assuming that maybe they cut like a frame or something from it to make it like, or maybe he can just do that really quickly. I don't know.
It's a creepy, weird.
It's creepy.
Smile that's also like it borders it borders. It's like creepy, but also really stupid and laughable at the same time. And you're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. That's how I felt the whole time.
It was the first time he does it. I was like, oh, that's weird. That's creepy. It took me off guard. But then afterwards, I just kind of like, I didn't really. The voice was kind of annoying.
Yes.
To me, and very hammy, very melodramatic and weird. And maybe he talks in a British accent in the book. I guess. I
don't know.
I assume he must have an accent. I don't really know why he has a British accent because he's an alien, and like I don't get that. But,
I don't get that either. I can tell you that I read that he decided, in order to get into character for that, he decided he was going to impersonate Malcolm McDowell from A Clockwork Orange. So that's his attempt at doing Malcolm McDowell. So there you go.
It's a little not good, but
so when they go get Deadits in this movie, and he shows up as a man, I leaned over to Kayla and I was like, he's looking a lot like freaking Donnie Wahlberg in The Sixth Sense. And then 5 minutes later, I'm looking at him and I'm like, that's because that is Donnie Wahlberg, and this is around The Sixth Sense. This was like 2 years before Saw 2. So this was really close to Detective Matthews, who's like Mr. Tough Guy, buff guy. And he's like...
not Duddits and Saw 2.
No, he's just Dunnits at the end of that franchise.
Yeah.
But in this, he definitely got typecasted a little bit because of like the skinny, emaciated, kind of mentally incompetent person that he played in The Sixth Sense. They had a similar kind of build and character here, and they were like, well, we'll just get Donnie. He did it before, he can do it again, kind of thing, because it feels like a similar performances, just a little bit more mentally handicapped.
Yeah.
And oh my god, the ending of this movie with I am Duddits, and he turns into I don't know what Stephen King's trying to say here, or like all mentally retarded people, like aliens.
No, but it does feel like, it feels like a weird message. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't really like the comparison.
If you're different,
yeah,
you're probably from somewhere else.
Right.
You're not
like
from
in
here.
order, but it's also almost kind of like, if you're different but like powerful or like special, it's because you're an alien.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird, but it does feel like, I don't know. Yeah.
I would definitely give some dating advice to Timothy Olyphant's character in this movie when he's finding that girl's keys for her. The whole like, I'm a psychic thing and you're doing this and you were over here and all of that stuff. I know it's for the audience to be like, oh, he's psychic. But like, it's fine for the film and everything. But if I was him, this is very similar to like when you call the police, you don't tell them a monster's coming after you. You say, I was carjacked or whatever. Please send help, whatever. You lie because they're not going to believe you until they get there.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with this. If he's using this gift as like a way to get favor from some pretty girl that he wants to go out with, just help her find her keys.
Sure.
Just use your psychic abilities quietly. Go over, just ask her a couple questions, get the information you need, be like, okay, and start looking. And then you're led to them and just be like, keep looking. And then you reach, oh my God, here they are. Oh, you want to go have dinner sometime?
Yeah.
Versus like, blah, 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 blah. They're over here and you ate this for lunch and your second grade teacher was. And then she's like, okay. What's this like terminology that they have with like, fuckaroos and fuckarees?
A fuckaroo is like bad and the rees is
one of
like
them
good?
Is like somebody you have sex with and then somebody who wants nothing to do with you is like turn or also
But they use
can
it
be
like
like,
with other things.
yeah, they use it
too.
for other
it's
things.
like good or
if things,
bad.
if things go well for you, or if
Yeah.
things don't go well for you.
It's very. I mean, like it's funny because
That's a very King thing.
Yeah, it's very like beep beep Richie. Like, but as much as like I love it and I love the dynamic of the friends in it. With this one, I'm just like, is that what friends are like?
Ooh,
I wonder if they can hear that. Probably
yeah,
not.
you can hear that. That lightning
That
and thunder
was
is
loud.
close. That is right outside.
Wow.
We are right under the storm right now, for sure. We might lose power.
Ooh, maybe I won't have to go to work tomorrow. 4-day weekend. What was I gonna say?
The dialogue.
Oh, I was gonna say I liked. So part of the thing that I liked in the opening is I did like seeing how all these friends were psychic and how they all were like using it in their lives.
Okay.
I thought that was kind of cool. Like
to
I liked.
Not get laid.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, your advice is better to like have him be successful with getting the girl, but in general, I just liked seeing everybody's like careers and like how they were connected, like that stuff. I thought was cool.
It feels very King.
Yeah, it was super King.
As bad as I really do genuinely think, and I rarely say this, I genuinely think this is a mess of a movie. I actually think this is an actual bad film. As much as I will say that this is a bad movie in my opinion, it still feels super Stephen King.
Yes, the entire film does.
And I don't mean that in a positive way. I think this is like all the bad King stuff.
Like all the tropes.
King has a lot of different tropes and stylistic choices and stuff that he makes, right?
You know what he didn't have in this though? Unless I'm wrong.
A writer?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why it didn't work.
He had an alcoholic though.
Yeah, of course. I just think there's a lot of things about King I like and a lot of things I don't, and I feel like almost everything I don't is in this film and all the things I like mostly are absent here. Yeah. And I think that this is like a collection of all of his worst tropes. But with the first like 45 minutes feeling like classic King and being like, ooh, we're heading somewhere.
Sure.
And then we head nowhere.
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman is ludicrous in this film. His character is so stupid, and like shooting that guy for whatever the fuck reason, and the Tom Sizemore stuff, and like he's top billed in this movie and is probably in it for 10 minutes, and his character is so cliche, lame, try hard, and then he like just jacks a helicopter with a machine gun and just starts firing at dude. I don't know. It's all so stupid. It's all so stupid.
I mean, he's supposed to be like going crazy from hunting aliens for 20 years or whatever, but yeah, it's really dumb.
2 scenes in a row in this movie show you the friend group split off into pairs. The one friend group finds out they're in a quarantine, that they have a sick man in their house and a demon freaking alien in the toilet. They make jokes. Then the other pairing, the Timothy Oliphant and Thomas Jane pairing, get into a rollover car wreck in the snow after they saw a person sitting in the road who's probably dead.
Yeah.
And they get out of the car when Timothy Oliphant still thinks he broke his leg at that point, and they're both laughing. Both crew are like, don't take anything seriously.
What it's supposed to be, I think, is it's supposed to be like their friendship.
They've been through
like they love each other so much, and even in like the worst situations, like they still can like they know they have each other's backs, like they have that bond. That's what I think it's supposed to be. I didn't mind them laughing. After the car accident.
You're in such a predicament there. You've destroyed your car.
Right, because I think
you are in the middle of freaking nowhere.
Yeah, to me, that laughter felt more like, okay, like I could believe a nervous laugh of like dude, what? Like that just happened. But the one with the guys who are in the cabin with the alien, that I'm like, I don't know if that calls for nervous laughter just yet.
Yeah. Credit to Morgan Freeman's eyebrows for Really carrying this film. And the way that Thomas Jane's character writes his name in the snow with his piss, and it's like perfect cursive in the snow.
Done that,
bro. There's no way. There's no way. This is like you're taking like a squeeze bottle and perfectly writing your name. You're not doing that with your dick, dude. That's just not happening. No one's like a penis artist like that. That's crazy. When I saw how perfect it was, I was like, bro, what? You guys ever perfectly wrote your name in cursive in the snow with your dick?
I've never done it, period.
No. You did it with your period?
No.
Oh my God. Oh, it'd be like a cherry slushy. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, so let's see, anything more? Just, oh my God. There's some of the dialogue in this, like the line when Jonesy is talking to one of them and he's like, "What's wrong with you? You sound like one of those James Bonds." That stuff right there, I was like,
James
bro,
Bond?
That's first draft shit that you go.
You sound like one
somebody reads it. Like Lawrence Kasdan. You take it to him and he's like, "Did you really put this in here?"
Those James
But it's him.
Bonds?
Like,
yeah,
one of those James Bonds. What?
It's like
Not,
they're the aliens. They sound like aliens trying to pretend to be humans.
Exactly. The line would be and would work if he just said, "What's wrong with you? Why do you sound like James Bond?" That would be like, okay, that works.
But
that's fine.
Like
one of those James Bonds? What? That line really got me. Really took me aback.
There's different actors playing James Bond.
I get, so. Doesn't matter. It's still just the character. one of those actors who played James Bond, but that's just too much of a mouthful,
too, right? So it's like that doesn't even make sense because they don't play them as the same. Like Sean Connery's James Bond is different from whatever other person plays James Bond.
Correct, because they're Scottish. So there's Sean Connery, who's Scottish. You have George Lazenby, who's also Scottish. And then you've got like Roger Moore, who's British. Right? Daniel Craig, who's British.
You sound like Roger Moore or Daniel Craig, who hasn't played it yet. It's James Bond. You
sound like future James Bonds. At this point, though, Pierce Brosnan was probably James Bond when this movie came out. But anyway, I think that pretty much from Roger Moore on, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the first two are Scottish, and then all the rest have been British since. But I'm pretty sure that's accurate, but definitely correct me if I'm wrong. Is it like, what is happening?
It's like,
oh, it's pouring
crazy right now.
Yeah, it's storming.
Where's nuts. Our dog? Hey, are you okay?
He's probably hiding.
He's right here.
And let's see. The like paths with the fingers and stuff, all that stuff. I don't know. It's like you accept things way more when you're into a movie. We've said this before, and at this point, I'm just so checked out. And when he gets a phone call on the gun, and I just love the face of Tom Sizemore is like, "Give me back my gun."
I know, I love that too.
I was like, "Oh my God, what?
We have to go to Massachusetts."
I just threw away my career for this psychopath.
Yes.
Who's talking on a freaking gun.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're getting information from a gun now. That's interesting. And I love how they're in a rush to get there. So Jonesy's driving straight to the destination in Massachusetts. And then the other two that are chasing after him decide, we got to make a pit stop in Derry, Maine.
Yeah.
Then, after we convince his mom, get him, put him in the car, and then drive to Massachusetts, somehow we're going to get there at the same time.
Yeah.
What?
I don't understand how the timing works.
How the hell did they drive to Maine, then to Massachusetts, when the other one was driving straight to Massachusetts? I don't know if you know this or not, but Maine and Massachusetts got some distance between them.
Yeah.
Some good distance between them. So the fact that you get there, because all he has to do, the only thing he has to do is once he gets to this very specific place, why he can't just put it into any drinking water, I have no idea. It has to be this very specific drinking water.
I guess that's the drinking water that's like gonna go to
more places.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Regardless. Okay, so this is the drinking water. It has to be done, right? All he has to do when he gets there, and the real Jonesy like slows him down by making him crash his car for like 10 seconds, so that bought him about a minute. He has to literally walk inside this building in front of him, open up a manhole cover, which he struggles with for some reason, even though he's really a 10-foot tall alien with infinite power. I don't understand why he struggles getting a manhole cover off all of a sudden when he can eat people whole. This just makes no sense to me. But literally the time it takes for him to, crash the car, he's an alien, so he's fine. He gets out of the car, walks into the building, lifts the manhole cover, and takes the freaking thing out of it and throws it in the water. That's going to take all of 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So you have a 2-minute window from the time he gets there, but you have to drive to Maine first and then to Massachusetts, and you're going to get there at the same time as him. And when you get there, you're going to take your slow ass time slowly walking when you know that all that he needs to do is get a worm into the water supply in that building ahead of you, and for some reason you're sneaking up on this building.
Yeah.
And then getting shot at by a helicopter until you're dead, proving those two characters to be completely pointless to this film. And then Thomas Jane walks in and stops them last second. It is so dumb and so unbelievable, it actually hurts.
Yeah, I have no explanation for how the distance works, like how they can get there at the same time.
It doesn't.
And I mean, yeah, it's like the end with the whole like Animorphs, I am Duddits, and then it's just like two giant aliens fighting. But my favorite part, at the very end, there's this one little worm that's crawling over. And he's so excited. He's like, gonna jump in.
He's doing a celebratory dance before he goes.
But then he gets squished.
If he would have just jumped.
I know, but instead he was like...
He's like, hold on, I gotta savor the moment. My little sperm-like body. And then he did his little I Dream of Genie dance. Little belly dancer. Sperm worm. Terrible. Just awful. I was really hoping. We were like 30, 40 minutes in, and I was like, dude, I'm going to say because people hate this movie, and I was like, oh, man, maybe it's not so bad. It's bad. It's real bad. So that's that. Let us know what you want us to do next week. We got Desperation I want to watch. We've got Dolores Claiborne. We've got Bag of Bones. We've got the Dolan's Cadillac. We've got a bunch of TV series like Leslie's Story and Chapel Wait and The Mist. And there's tons of Stephen King stuff left. So if any of those strike your fancy, let us know in the comments below. Other than that, Duddits out. Bye.